All right, so this is a suggestion via Discord. The name of the video is Analyst explains how Trump's new envoy has changed his tone about Russia. Really? All right. Let's check it out.
Details have emerged about Russia's attack on Ukraine's energy grid. President Zelensky says cluster munitions were used in the massive overnight attack.
Hey, bro, I'm going to be honest. Your accent is spectacular. Like, it makes me want to sit at attention and listen thoroughly.
He says cluster munitions were used in the massive overnight attack. The Ukrainian president says the Russian Kalibr cruise missiles were particularly dangerous to civilians. The teams are at work all day restoring power. Temperatures in Ukraine are set to drop below freezing. CNN's Nick Payton-Walsh reports from central Ukraine.
All right, let's go.
This is the 11th large-scale attack by Russia on Ukraine's energy infrastructure so far this year. And throughout the night, according to Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky, 90 missiles and 100 drones fired at targets across Ukraine.
Bro, imagine standing on the street and seeing this above your head. That's crazy.
And this was a response to the use of US-supplied ATACMS to hit targets inside of Russia, but it's part of Moscow's persistent bid to erode the infrastructure here, the heating, the electricity that's going to keep the lights on and Ukraine warm through what's already becoming a dark and freezing winter. In fact, Zelensky said that some of these Kalibr missiles that were fired and used cluster munitions, particularly harmful to civilians, to hit some of their targets. But it was, too, the Kremlin head Vladimir Putin said, a response to the use by Ukraine of US-supplied ATACMS missiles to hit targets inside of Russia in the last weeks or so.
Right,
Escalation here.
Yeah, that's the exact reason why Russia is responding like this. Completely. They're like, wait a second. Obviously, you know that America has basically been dumping money into your country for the longest now, and now they're furnishing you with all types of brand new weaponry. Let's say, since they're doing that, we're going to do something absolutely absurd. Cluster munitions, guys. Cluster. Oh, you're a bad man, bro.
Teams almost daily. And Putin taking opportunity
today
not only to refer to why this occurred because of the ATACMS, but also potentially hold out a kind of branch of some description towards President Donald Trump coming to the White House in January, calling Trump an experienced and capable man and suggesting potentially that he might be able to find a, quote, solution. Now, that is surely a nod to the diplomacy which many believe Trump will adopt as the US policy going forwards in January. A nod to that, certainly, through his appointment of a Ukrainian special envoy to Ukraine, and that is General Keith Kellogg, his former national security advisor, who in April wrote extensively about a potential way forward for a peace plan here. It would involve freezing the front lines, taking up negotiation as the formal policy of the United States, asking Ukraine to accept aid, but aid as loans, and the condition for that continuing would be that Ukraine will become part of this peace process too. Russia, in turn, would get slight sanctions relief for becoming part of the negotiation process, but then I think the details as to how it gets to an end point in where Ukraine could potentially be happier and secure a little fuzzier. The plan in itself seems to accept the amount of aid the US is currently giving to Ukraine as at its maximum, and they can't produce any more, but also seems to suggest potentially that they need to continue and indeed supply Kiev more to secure itself against any future Russian advances. But clearly moves towards diplomacy here, and potentially a moment in which Vladimir Putin, a wily and frankly at times cynical negotiator, may find it easier to get what he wants out of the new White House. The news from the front lines, though, consistently in Moscow's advantage. They're moving forwards on multiple different directions along the Eastern Front, as we saw ourselves over the past week or so. Nick Payton-Walsh, CNN, Central Ukraine.
Yeah, guys, I'm not sure that the rest of Europe would be completely happy with that deal at all, guys.
We saw ourselves over the past week or so. Nick Payton-Walsh, CNN, Central Ukraine.
To be completely honest here.
Overnight, Ukraine says Russia launched 132 drone attacks, but most were shot down. At least 8 people were injured. These latest strikes come after Russia again pounded Ukraine's power grid yesterday. 1 million homes were plunged into darkness, and rolling blackouts covered much of the country as the war grinds into its third winter. President-elect Trump has named his choice to serve as special envoy to Russia and Ukraine, retired General Keith Kellogg, a national security advisor in the first Trump administration. Months ago, Kellogg laid out his peace plan for the war, which may now become the diplomatic roadmap ahead? And joining me to talk about this, CNN political and national security analyst David Sanger is also the White House national security correspondent for the New York Times and the author of New Cold Wars, China's Rise, Russia's Invasion, and America's Struggle to Defend the West. First, David, what do you think of General Kellogg in that selection there?
It was an interesting choice because, Jim, at the beginning of the invasion, now nearly 3 years ago, Keith Kellogg was very much in the "we can't let the Russians do this or gain from the war" camp. Like many
What has
Democrats and
changed?
Republicans, but mostly Republicans, he's now moved to we need an armistice or some kind of cessation of fighting on the way to a bigger peace plan. Now, I actually think this makes sense, but what they're going to have to get over, Jim, is the thought that at the end of the day, the Russians will have gained maybe 20% of Ukraine. Because you can have an armistice, but if it's like the one in between North and South Korea,
Right, like wherever they are right now, that's theirs.
from 1953, the North gained territory from it.
Right.
Right. I mean, it's all pointing in that direction in terms of Trump's picks for his foreign policy team. I mean, I guess Senator Marco Rubio might lead you to believe otherwise, but it does seem as though the incoming president is going to put some pressure on Ukraine to give up territory.
He is.
Well,
100%. Because the only way Russia is going to stop what they're doing right now is if they keep what they have right now. That's it. If you think that they're gonna back up at any, you're crazy. That's not how this is going to work here. There's nothing that the invaded country, let's say, can give them to make them stop other than their country. Okay, so you're going to just have to now, unfortunately, deal with the fact that wherever the invading country is, let's say, is theirs now.
Outliers here, of course, were
that's going to be the deal.
Rubio, who also took a pretty hard line, and Mike Waltz, the new national security advisor. But the fact of the matter is that the president has indicated pretty clearly here that what he's interested in is a deal. He's not interested in sharp lines around what were the territorial boundaries of Ukraine.
Right, no one cares in that instance. Like, not to be crass or anything like that, but this is the issue here. We are spending entirely too much money into Ukraine. We don't want to do that anymore. Okay, and that's just a reality. We do not want to spend any more money in a country that is not the United States of America, funding things that actual Americans actually care about. That's the reality, I think, in this instance. So what Trump is most likely going to try to do is stop it immediately so we can stop wasting money over there and in other countries outside of the United States of America. Okay, like if we have enough money to send to other countries while Americans are suffering, then we are giving the government too much money in taxes. That's the reality, I think. So what Trump is going to most likely do, again, is just be like, listen, whatever we can do to stop this, that's fine. We're done.
That's a difference. And, in many ways, Jim, it's a deep ideological difference because President Biden, and he repeated this in a statement yesterday after the pounding attacks on the Ukrainian grid that you were describing, basically said, we're with Ukraine all the way, and Russia cannot emerge from this a winner. And in an armistice...
Unfortunately, there's nothing that the invaded country currently can do to stop the invaders by themselves. They cannot stand on their own. They cannot. And if we pull out without any type of deal, then they're just going to be completely invaded, guys. Right. So there has to be some type of deal. We need to get off of the softness. Let's just hope that the invading country is going to stop. They're not going to stop, guys. They're not. The only way to do this is to basically be like, listen, we're going to ease up on some of the sanctions. We're going to allow you access back to, to the U.S. dollar, et cetera. Right. And we'll do everything humanly possible so this can just stop. OK. And don't worry, you can keep the amount of land that you have already taken. That's the vibe I'm getting.
Russia may well end up getting, a good bit of territory. Not what they wanted, which was the whole country.
The whole country, right.
And the fear, of course, that's what comes later.
Yeah, I mean, and that leads me to this question. Couldn't the Ukrainians just do what they want? I mean, do they have to bow to this pressure if it comes from the Trump team?
Right. Then let us stop giving them money. Do what you want, bro.
To put down their weapons and give up territory for peace.
In a word, Jim, no, because they need the American support, the American weaponry. Europe, NATO,
and the weaponry from England
could continue to supply them, and I'm sure that through the summer they could probably make it through. But the fact of the matter is, they are running out of people. That's the main problem. They are running out of new troops out here, and eventually they will run low on ammunition. But what's happened here is what happens in so many wars that Russia gets into. That Russia, or before that the Soviet Union, they start slow and then they build up mass.
Yeah, they ramp up.
And Kellogg was part of some multiple investigations of the first Trump administration. Apparently listened in on Trump's phone call pressuring Ukraine's president to investigate the Bidens. He was on Trump's January 6th call to his vice president demanding that Pence block or delay Congress's certification of the election law. He's very much a Trump loyalist.
He's a true loyalist, and if President Trump says, I want a deal, he'll do a deal, along the way. There are some concerns that he comes from sort of an older school here of
Warhawks,
of foreign policy and a very military background, and that maybe you want an experienced diplomat here who has been involved in long-standing diplomatic enterprises like this. But clearly President Trump wanted a loyalist, as he has wanted in so many other jobs.
Yeah. We're seeing that across the incoming cabinet. Our David Singer. Thanks as always. Good to talk to you. Appreciate it.
And what's interesting is that what's wrong with that in this instance? And the reason why I'm saying this is that because, look, guys, we can look at how the left pretty much exclusively stacks the deck here. They find the person that can basically ruin a city the fastest, and then they put them in position, basically, like in Oakland, for example. You'll find the person who espouses like the most nut job woke ideology they possibly could find, and then they say, you know what, we're going to put you in position. So they don't look for specifically loyalists. They look for the craziest person humanly possible mentally, right, to take over that position. That's what they do, 100%. So I'd honestly rather someone who I don't have to really worry about, in a sense, right? I mean, loyalists, I don't really care like that. But what I do care about is making sure the people that are in charge are never going to allow the nonsense that the current left pushes basically at 100%, right? Like, think of everything that they say, right? And if you will disallow that, then we'll go ahead and talk. Basically, that's kind of where I'm at, guys. But okay, so here's the thing. Ukraine is going to 100% have to give up the land that they've basically already lost. And it is what it is here. They don't really have much say here. I get it. It's their country. I understand that. But I think the big dilemma here is that without aid from the United States of America, our money, they have no ability to actually defend themselves. None. So basically, if we're forced to do this, and consistently pay, then we're going to have the last word. And the last word has to be either you make a deal or we stop giving you money. That's it. That's it, guys. And again, if we have that much money to give to countries that have nothing to do with us, okay, then we're paying too much money in taxes. Okay. If there are people that are struggling on a day-to-day basis, but we have enough money to give to people that we don't know, bro, stop. But all right, listen, I'll catch you guys later. This is my lightsaber. Hey guys, you guys subscribe to the other channels? Logical Movie Reviews with Mr. L. Boyd, along with Mr. L. Boyd Music. Oh, also, Mr. L. Boyd Discusses. Guys, check it out. And if you haven't heard it today, you're amazing.